Hey guys, this is MacHeads101, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a simple table view that you can search using a search bar. So for instance, in this example, I can just type something and it'll show all the results, and I can hit enter to just get rid of the keyboard and what have you. So this is pretty much what we're going to be making in this tutorial. So the first thing you will do is open up Xcode, and I will create a file, new project. Alright. And a view-based application. And I'll call it searching. Alright, create. And here we are. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is set up the interface in the way that we had it configured in the app I just showed you. So we're going to click on searching view controller.xib right here, and then we're going to go to view utilities, and I'll show the attributes inspector. I guess it really doesn't matter. Okay, now throw this over here, find a table view, drag it on there. I'll also find a search bar, and I'll drag the search bar up to the top. Okay, so now we have our interface set up, but we don't have it set up with code. So I'm just going to be creating some of the variables and outlets that we need to use in order to make this interface actually work with our code. So I'll go to searching view controller.h, and I'll use curly braces right here, and I'll declare an IB outlet, UITableView, table view, and IB outlet, UISearchView, search bar, and then right up here next to the UI view controller, I'm going to have a less than and greater than, and I'm going to put UITableView delegate, UITableView data source, and UITableView, UI search bar delegate, separated by commas, by the way. So my .h is basically set up like this, and now I can go back into the XIB, and by the way, you have to save the .h by pressing Command S. Now I'll go back into the XIB and link up our code with our interface. So you want to hold Control while dragging from Files Owner over to this table view, and then do the same thing over to the search bar and just tap search bar. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. So Control drag from the table view over to Files Owner and select data source. Then do the exact same thing, and this time select delegate. And then you're going to want to select the search bar just by clicking on it until it gets highlighted like it is here. And then Control drag over to Files Owner and then hit delegate again. Now we've set up basically our entire interface, so that way our code can access the elements in our interface and our interface can access our code. And you'll see how that is important in just a minute. Okay, so now what we're going to do is write the implementation itself. So just go ahead and click on searchingview.m. And actually, before we do this, let's go into searchingview.h, and we're going to set up a couple of things. If you'll recall from the demo I showed you at the beginning of this video, we basically need a list of items. Now in this video, it's just going to be the words for all the numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. And then we're also going to need a list that's all of these search results that are actually being shown. So I'm going to create an array, and that's what a list is in programming, called all items. Okay, and this will always contain all of the items in the table view, not just the ones that are being shown. Now we also need an array for the search results, or for the items that are being actually displayed. And this can change, if you'll remember, because when I change what I'm searching, this will change as well based on the results. So we're going to need to declare this as an NS mutable array, and I'll call it display items. Now NS mutable array, you'll notice the word mutable here because mutable comes from the word mutate, and that basically means that we can change it. This is always going to be the way it is when we started off. You know, it can't be changed. We can add items, we can remove items, we can filter it based on search results, etc. So now we're going to go back into our .m and just implement viewDidLoad here. And this is where we're going to be setting up both of these arrays for the first time. So first of all, I'll set up all items. So I'll say all items equals NSArray alloc init with objects. Okay, and the objects are strings separated by commas. So a string is like an at, then between the two quotes you put whatever you want. So I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And now put a semicolon at the end. Now we're also going to want to create the display items. And we're just going to start it off initially with all the same things as all items, because all the things are going to start off being displayed. So we'll say display items equals ns mutable array alloc init with array, and then a colon, and we'll just give it all items. And this will basically create a mutatable, if you will, version of this that can be changed. So the only difference right now between display items and all items is that display items can be modified. And we're going to be doing that once we get into actually implementing the search feature. But before we do that, we have to make the table view actually display whatever's in display items, because that's what it's called, display items. You know, it's got to display what's in there. So there are a couple methods we have to implement for the table view data source that are going to allow us to give the table view all of these items. The first one returns an ns integer, and it's called number of sections in table view. And this is always going to return 1 because there's only one section in our table view. The next one is the same kind of idea. It's how many rows are in a section. And since there's one section, we don't have to worry about which section they're asking for. We'll just tell it how many rows are in display items. So we'll give it display items count. And that'll tell it how many items that it'll basically display. Okay, now this last method that we're going to implement will give the table view a cell for whatever row that it wants. So let's say that it needs to know what's in row 1 so it can display the contents of row 1. It's going to call, it's called table view cell for index path at row, or cell for row at index path, sorry. So basically in here we're going to create a cell with the text of the current item. So in this case, whichever row they're asking for will be one of these things in this array. So 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, in display items. So before we can even worry about what's actually in the row, we have to create the cell. So we're going to say UITableView cell equals, and whoops, capitalize the E there, equals table view cell for DQ reusable cell. And then we'll just give it the a nice standard identifier. Now it's giving us a warning here because look at this. This is a parameter that we're getting, and if you'll recall, we have an instance variable up here with the same name. So what we're gonna do is just change this to, let's say, a table view, whatever. It doesn't matter. We don't really care about this because we're only dealing with one table view, so it's kind of irrelevant. So we can call it whatever we want as long as it doesn't collide with our instance variable. Okay, now we are going to say if bang cell, and basically what this is doing is we're asking the table view, and table views do this magic thing where if they don't need a cell anymore because it's invisible, you know, it's been pushed off the screen by scrolling, it saves that cell and it lets you reuse it for a different row later on. But if it hasn't saved any cells, then we need to create a new cell. So here's where we'll do that. We'll say UITableView cell alloc init with style. Okay, UITableView cell style, and we'll give it default. And the reuse identifier will have to match the one that we use here if we want to actually take advantage of this reusable recycling cell system. It's just cell with a capital C, and that has to be the same. And now we'll actually set the text of the cell to be that of the item that they're asking for. So cell.textLabel dot text equals display items object at index path dot row. Basically, we are just getting whichever item they ask for. So let's say they ask for item 3. We would just get the third item of display items, which happens to be 3 probably, yeah. And we would set the text of the cell to be that. And now we're finally going to return the cell. We're returning it to the table view so they can actually use it and look at it. So right now if we run it, the table view will just show whatever we have in display items, which will always be these things. So let's go ahead and run it. And as you see here, all our items are there that we put in that table, in that array, and we can even type something in the search box, but nothing happens. It's not filtered, whatever, because we haven't made anything happen yet. So now what we have to do is make the search feature actually work. And what this consists of is just simply whenever they type anything into this box, this search box right here, it will change whatever's in display items to only have the results of whatever they searched. So we're going to declare we're going to implement a couple new methods in our .m for the search for the search field. So the first one, and this is probably the most important one, is searchbar text did change. And we will get this code called whenever the user enters any text into the search bar, whether that be, for instance, getting rid of the text. You know, if they hit backspace, this will get called. If they hit a letter, this will get called. If they hit the clear button, this will get called. So this will get called whenever we need to change our results based on what the user is searching. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to see, and another thing you'll notice before I even go on, is that if the user searches an empty piece of text, like if they have nothing in the search field, it just shows all of the results, even though no results would actually come up, hypothetically, I guess. So we're going to need to check if the text is actually, if there's any text. So we'll say if search text length equals 0. And basically this code will get called, this code will run right here if there's nothing in the search field. And otherwise, this code will get called right here if there is something in the search field. So if there's nothing in the search field, what we're going to do is we're going to say display items, remove all objects, and that just removes everything. So nothing will be displayed right now. And then what we want to do, so we actually display everything, is we say display items, add objects from array, all items. So first it'll get rid of all of the items so that way nothing is displayed, and then it'll add all of the items so that way everything is displayed. And the reason we have to do this two-step process is because if we just add all of the items and half of them were already there because there was already a search result, then some items will be there twice. So that's why we're going to remove all the things first and then add everything back. Alright, and now if we're actually searching, we're doing a filter, what we need to basically do is go through all of the items and all items, and then if it matches what they're searching, then we'll add it to display items. So first of all, we're going to say display items, remove all objects, okay? And now we're going to go through all of the things in all items. So for ns string in all items. And this code will run right here for every single item. So for 1, for 2, for 3, for 4, for 5, so for, you know, everything in all items. And string, which is our magic variable, will be different each time. It'll be 1 in one case, and 2 in one case, and 3 in one case, and etc. And we're basically going to be checking if string matches the search text. And if it does, then we will add it to display items. Simple as that. So in order to check if search text, and in this case we're just doing a very simple search, we're just checking if this string, if this piece of text contains or has inside of it the text that they're searching for. So we're going to do nsRange, r equals string, range of string, and we'll give it search text. options, NS case insensitive search. And basically, an NS range is just a type that tells us where it is. So if the string, in fact, and the string might be 3 or 2 or whatever, if it has inside of it search text, so let's say the search W, 2 has a W in it, and it's the second character. But if they search W, 4 definitely doesn't have a W in it, okay? So in this case, we're going to check if it was actually found in this string. So we're going to say if r.location is ns not found, okay? And in this case, if it's not found, then we don't want to do anything. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to say bang equals, exclamation point equals not found. So that way, if it is found, so if it's not found, it kind of sounds redundant, but this is how you have to do it. So if it is found, we're going to add it to display items. So we're going to say display items, add object, string. So for every piece of text, every element in all items that actually matches the search text, we're going to add it to display items. And then at the end, if you'll recall from another tutorial where I had to use table views, what you want to do is reload the data in the table view to match whatever we've put in search and display items, because the table view doesn't just constantly ask for the same items again and again to check if anything's changed. We actually have to tell it that a change has been made. So in order to do that, we have to say table view reload data, and we're just doing it at the end, so no matter what happens, it'll always reload the data. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this right now, and let's see how it goes. Alright, so let me just type O, and you'll see a couple results come up. I'll search W, only 2 is the only result. Search O again, and if I hit X, then everything shows up. Okay, great, but now let's say I want to get rid of the keyboard. How do I do that? Even if I type something and I hit search, it doesn't go away, you know. So there's no way to escape this, and also if I scroll, you know, I can't get to the bottom because the keyboard is covering half of the list. So these are two problems that now we have to work on. Two kind of big problems. So let's go over here, back into our implementation, and we're going to do something. First of all, if the user hits the search key on the keyboard, we're going to make it hide the keyboard. That's what we want to do anyway. So we're going to have a new void, search bar, and then search button clicked. Okay? And like I mentioned before, if we have search bar right here, and we also have search bar up in our .h, and we want to access, it doesn't know which one we're trying to access. So I'm just going to rename this to a search bar, so that way it has a different name. And we didn't have to do that in here because we're not accessing search bar in here, so it doesn't matter if there are two. You know, it really doesn't matter. But here it does, so we're going to say search bar, resign, first responder. And this line of code, this very simple line of code, is actually what will hide the keyboard. So now if we go ahead and run the project again, and we go ahead and we type something like O, and we hit enter, boom, the keyboard is hidden, and now we can see the stuff again. Whoops, I don't know what just happened there. Okay, well, anyway, so that's that. Now, let's face the other issue that we were having, where if we tap here and the keyboard comes up, we actually can't get to the bottom of the list unless we hide the keyboard by hitting enter. And that's because the keyboard just comes up and covers our table view. It's kind of obnoxious that it does that, but you know, we haven't told it any better. So in order to correct this problem, we're basically going to need to resize the table view to not go down all the way, so that way the keyboard doesn't cover anything. And then when the keyboard goes away, we have to resize it again to be the full height, so that way it doesn't look like there's the table view is only half the height of the actual program. So let's do the first thing I mentioned first. That'll fix half of the problem. So in our view did load, we're gonna say ns notification center default center, add observer, okay, self, and then for the selector we'll give it @selector, and then how about keyboard shown, and the name will be UI keyboard did show notification, and the object will be null, or nil rather. It doesn't really matter, nil is what I like. And now down here we're going to implement yet another method, which is keyboard shown. Whoops. And it'll take an NS notification note, I'll call it. Okay, so this code will get called every single time the keyboard gets displayed. But what we have to do is get the actual size of the keyboard. That way we can resize the table view to compensate for the size of the keyboard. So first we're going to declare a cgrect, and I'll call it keyboard frame. And then I'll say note user info object for key UI keyboard and UI keyboard frame end user info key. Alright, great. And now we're gonna have another set of brackets around that. Get value address of keyboard frame. And address of just means putting the ampersand. And basically what this will do is it'll set keyboard frame in a very unconventional way. It'll set keyboard frame to be the frame of the keyboard that has been displayed. And now we can essentially resize the table view to have less height, to be shorter, so that way it doesn't block this. So we're going to say cgrect table view frame equals table view dot frame. And let me fix my capitalization issue there. Now table view frame dot size dot height minus equals keyboard frame dot size dot height. And basically what this will do is it'll subtract the height of the keyboard from the height of the table view. So that way the table view is just shorter to fit the new height of the screen without the keyboard. And now we'll say table view set frame table view frame to actually update the frame. Okay, and now if you'll run it, at first it'll seem like we have pretty promising results. So let me just show you. If we do that, now we can scroll to the bottom. But now let's say I hide my keyboard. Boom. Where's the other half of the table view? You know, now it's only here because when the keyboard is hidden, it doesn't resize itself to cover the full screen again. So we have to do another thing for when the keyboard goes away, so that way we can resize it to be the full height again. So we're going to do another thing right under this NS notification center thing. And in fact, I can actually just copy this line of code and change one thing. So let me do that. Let me just change the selector to keyboard hidden. And keyboard will hide notification. Okay. And now we're just going to implement our keyboard hidden note. Okay. And we'll say table view set frame self.bounds or self.view.bounds. And basically that will just put the entire keyboard or the table view to cover the entire screen again. So that's all we need to do there. And now if we go ahead and stop this and we run it, you will see that search still works, scrolling works, and now if here we hit enter, it goes back and covers the entire screen again. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys in this tutorial. Hope you learned something. Any questions, leave comments in the box below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. So thanks for watching. MacHeads 101, subscribe, and goodbye.